Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that, if you've never heard of it before, might sound like the start of a very questionable beauty tutorial. We're going back to medieval Japan, where black was the new white, but only for teeth. Yes, you heard that right. Tonight you'll be walking the soft, stone-paved streets of Kyoto, listening to the distant ring of a temple bell, and quietly wondering if the woman who just smiled at you accidentally ate ink. Spoiler, she didn't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, leave me a comment down below. What city are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's the 1350s. You've just arrived in Kyoto, the imperial capital of Japan during the waning years of the Kamakura period. The air is rich with the scent of pine smoke and freshly steamed mochi. You're wearing a borrowed kimono that's a little too long in the sleeves and keeps getting caught under your sandals. You look mildly confused but polite. Fortunately, that fits right in. As you meander down a narrow side street, you see women in elegant layers of silk walking past, their movements quiet and smooth, like water flowing over stones. One of them turns her head and smiles at you, and suddenly you freeze. Not because she's unfriendly, but because her teeth are completely black. Not brown, not yellow, not stained. Black. At first, your brain tries to reason with your eyes. Maybe it's a trick of the light. Maybe she just drank squid ink. Maybe she fell face first into a lacquer bowl. But no, as you keep walking, you realize this isn't a one-off. Nearly every married woman you pass, whether she's rich or modestly dressed, has the same glossy, charcoal black teeth. This is not dental decay. This is deliberate. Welcome to the age of ohaguro. You try not to stare, but it's difficult. One woman is laughing with her hand politely covering her mouth, and for a second her fingers slip, and you catch a glimpse of those teeth again, shining faintly like polished obsidian. You start to think, could this possibly be a fashion statement? You duck into a small incense shop, mostly to hide your bewilderment. The smell of sandalwood instantly calms your nerves. Behind the counter is an elderly woman arranging cones of incense into neat little pyramids. You clear your throat and ask, as politely as possible, "Excuse me, may I ask why so many people here have, black teeth?" She looks at you for a second, then chuckles. "Are you from Kyushu?" she asks. "Or perhaps across the sea? You don't know ohaguro." You shake your head. With the patience of someone who has answered this question 100 times, she waves for you to sit. "Black teeth are beautiful," she says, as if explaining something obvious, like why the sun rises. "They mean you're married, or grown up, or loyal, or elegant. Depends on who you ask." As she speaks, she hands you a small cup of barley tea. It's warm and slightly bitter. You're grateful for the seat, but also aware that you've just stumbled into something much deeper than a passing trend. According to some historians who, by the way, still debate the origins of ohaguro, this practice might date as far back as the Heian period. Others argue it didn't become widely adopted until later, possibly around the Muromachi period. What's clear is that by your time in Kyoto, the custom is already deeply rooted in society. In aristocratic families, dyeing one's teeth black is part of coming-of-age ceremonies. For women, it's usually done after marriage. For men, sometimes upon entering adulthood or taking on official duties. It's a kind of visual shorthand, like a wedding ring, a resume, and a status badge, all packed into your smile. But here's the kicker. The dye isn't permanent. It has to be reapplied regularly, sometimes daily. The concoction is made from iron filings, vinegar, tea leaves, and sometimes wine. It smells, well, like metal and salad dressing. Women would paint it on with small brushes, often while chatting with friends, as casually as someone today might apply eyeliner. One surprisingly charming detail: in some noble households, the ohaguro ritual was done as a group activity, like a slumber party, except with more rust water. Women would gather around a low table, stir the potion over a candle, and take turns painting each other's teeth. Some would even hum songs while doing it. Of course, there were rules. You don't show your black teeth to just anyone. In formal settings, women would cover their mouths while laughing. But among close friends and family, showing off that midnight smile was not just acceptable, it was fashionable. "Isn't it unpleasant?" you ask the incense lady. She shrugs. "We get used to it. Some even like the taste. It's a little sour, a little warm. Reminds me of childhood." You sip your tea and glance around the shop. The wooden shelves are lined with ceramic pots, rice paper, dried herbs. A small cat curls up near a charcoal brazier. Outside, the sky is beginning to turn gold. Somewhere, a temple bell chimes low and resonant, like a heartbeat stretched across miles. For a moment, you look down at your own teeth, blindingly white by comparison, and wonder how you would look with jet black enamel. Strange, yes, but out of place? Absolutely. You step outside again, walking slowly this time. Kyoto's tiled rooftops shimmer under the sunset. The city feels quiet and intimate, like it's whispering ancient secrets into your ear. You feel like you've crossed into another layer of time, where beauty doesn't mean what you thought it meant, and where even a smile has rules, rituals, and reasons. Don't worry. Tomorrow someone will offer to dye your teeth, and you'll probably say yes because by now you're starting to realize that fitting in here means embracing the unexpected. You wake up with the sound of a bamboo water spout clacking outside your window. The air smells faintly of miso soup and wet tatami mats. Someone in the neighboring room is humming a folk tune, and for a moment you forget where, or more accurately, when, you are. Then you roll over, catch your reflection in a lacquered mirror, and remember, black teeth. Everyone has them, except you, the woman running this inn. A sharp-eyed grandmother in a patterned kimono knocks softly before sliding your door open. She brings you a tray with rice, grilled fish, and a small bowl of pickled plums. "Eat well," she says with a bow. "You'll need your strength. The dyeing takes time." You blink. "Wait, today's the day." She smiles, and again, there it is, that deep, polished black gleam in her teeth. It doesn't look dirty. If anything, it's sleek, almost futuristic, like something from a science fiction fashion show. But then you remember the smell from yesterday's incense shop, iron and vinegar. You're not sure you're ready for this. But curiosity wins, and by late morning, you're led to a small garden behind the inn, where a low wooden table has been set under the shade of a gnarled pine tree. On it are 4 ceramic bowls, each filled with a murky, dark liquid. A small brazier keeps one of them warm. You sit down, cross-legged, as the innkeeper's daughter arrives with a delicate brush and a tiny wooden spoon. "It's best if you don't breathe through your nose," she says gently, stirring the warm bowl. "Or think about what's in it." Comforting, she dips the brush into the dye, called kanemizu, literally metal water, and raises it to your mouth. You open instinctively, like you're at the dentist, and brace for impact. The taste is unforgettable. It's sour, metallic, and oddly smoky, like someone dunked a rusty nail in weak wine and set it on fire. You gag. The daughter tries not to laugh. "Most people do," she says, "even noble ladies. It's part of the experience. Here's what they don't tell you. Dyeing your teeth black isn't a one-step job. First, they apply an adhesive layer called fushiko, made from powdered gallnuts. This helps the iron stick. Then comes the actual iron vinegar mixture. And if you want it glossy, and who doesn't, right, you do the process twice. Sometimes 3 times. You're barely halfway through and already wondering how anyone does this daily. Still, there's something strangely soothing about the process. The rhythm of brush on tooth, the breeze rustling the pine needles, the quiet focus of the woman as she paints your molars like a miniature shrine gate. You start to zone out, your mind drifting. Some scholars believe the original reason behind ohaguro had nothing to do with beauty. In fact, it may have started as a way to protect teeth from decay. Iron reacts with tannins in tea and creates a coating that makes enamel more resistant to acid. In a world without fluoride, this was cutting-edge dental care. Literally, brushing your teeth with rust was their version of brushing with mint. But of course, over time, that utility evolved. In aristocratic circles, black teeth became a symbol of refinement, adulthood, and discipline. It separated the grown-ups from the children, the married from the single, the respectable from the, well, tooth-colored. Historians still debate whether ohaguro was ever truly considered beautiful in the modern aesthetic sense, or whether it was simply a sign of conformity, something you did because your status demanded it, like high heels that hurt or powdered wigs that made you sweat. Meanwhile, back in the garden, your teeth are drying. Literally. You've been asked not to eat, drink, or speak for an hour to let the dye set. You sit there, awkwardly smiling at a pigeon who's wandered into the scene. It stares at you like it knows what you're doing is very strange, but something shifts in you. For the first time, you notice how different you feel. Not just because of the taste in your mouth, which is still very present, but because of what this process means. You've stepped into a role, into a ritual. This isn't about decoration, it's about declaration. You're part of a culture now, one where smiles carry centuries of meaning. Just then, the daughter returns with a small hand mirror. You take a deep breath, hold it up, and smile. Your teeth are black, like ink, like lacquer, like midnight. It's a lot. But you don't look ridiculous. You look adapted. You look like you belong here. She nods approvingly. It suits you, she says, and you can't tell if she means it or if she says that to everyone. But it still feels good. As you rise and thank her, your steps are slower, more deliberate. Maybe it's the iron. Maybe it's the sense of ceremony. But you walk through the inn with a little more confidence, a little more quiet understanding of this strange, elegant world you've entered. Tomorrow you'll visit a noble house and learn why this black smile isn't just personal, it's political. But for now you return to your room, sit by the window and sip some tea through slightly parted lips. Carefully. Section 3. There's a light drizzle falling over Kyoto this morning, the kind that barely makes a sound but leaves every surface glistening, like the city got a fresh coat of lacquer overnight. You watch it from your paper screen window while sipping tea. Your mouth still tastes vaguely of rusty plum juice, but you're getting used to it. Sort of. Today you're invited to a coming-of-age ceremony at a noble family's residence. You're not entirely sure why. Possibly someone mistook your confused expressions for polite interest. But you accept, because how often does one get to be an accidental guest at a centuries-old tradition? You follow your host through winding streets and narrow alleys until you arrive at a large, understated wooden gate. No guards, no flashy signs, Just an air of quiet authority and a single camellia blossom floating in a bowl near the entrance. This is the estate of the Fujiwara family. Old money. Real old. Inside, everything smells faintly of cedar and incense. Sliding doors open silently as you're led through a series of inner gardens and tatami-lined hallways. Finally, you enter a spacious room with paper lanterns glowing softly in the corners, their light the color of warm soy milk. At the center of the room sits a young girl, perhaps 15, wearing layer upon layer of silks so rich in color they almost hum. Her face is powdered, lips painted in the classic split red style, and her mouth, just moments ago, has been dyed completely black. You arrive just in time to witness the final step. Her mother leaning forward, offering her daughter a sip of tea. She accepts with composure. The ritual is complete. You sit to the side, trying not to shift noisily. A court official whispers to you, "This is genpuku for girls." Not the term we usually use for males, but the sentiment is the same. She's no longer a child. She's now a woman. You nod, understanding. The blackened teeth aren't just about fashion or even marriage. They're about transformation. The same way a samurai might put on his first set of armor, this girl has stepped into a new version of herself, one sip of tea at a time. What strikes you, though, is how solemn everyone is. There's no loud celebration, no fireworks, just silence, respect, and black teeth. One of the women, possibly an aunt, leans toward you and whispers, "Her grandmother dyed her teeth before marriage, her mother before she was presented at court." It's tradition, and tradition is its own kind of elegance. You begin to realize how ohaguro functions as a marker in a person's timeline, like a rite of passage. In a society where roles are clearly defined, where seasons and stations of life are written into fabric patterns, and the angle of one's bow, blackening the teeth is a punctuation mark, an elegant full stop between childhood and adulthood. Some noble families didn't just dye teeth for coming of age or marriage. In rare cases, teeth were dyed posthumously for unmarried noblewomen so they could enter the afterlife with dignity. That's right, even ghosts needed black teeth to be respectable, or at least their funerary portraits did. Historians are still discussing the exact symbolism behind this. Was it about purity, modesty, a visual reminder of inner discipline? Or perhaps, as some believe, it was meant to deter other suitors, a way of saying, "I'm taken, back off." But in teeth language, one thing is certain. The act of dyeing teeth, especially in noble households, was highly ritualized. There were rules. You couldn't do it sloppily. You couldn't skip steps. You couldn't just show up with a half-dyed smile and call it a day. It had to be even, symmetrical, and glossy. Yes, gloss mattered. The shinier, the better. Some women applied oil afterward to get that perfect wet lacquer finish. As you quietly observe the ceremony, you notice how many people around the room have black teeth, and how none of them seem self-conscious about it. In fact, there's pride there, a sense of belonging. You start to think, maybe beauty is just a matter of social agreement. One culture says pearly white, another says pitch black. And who's to say which is more elegant? You're offered a small dish of sweets, rice cakes shaped like chrysanthemums. As you chew thoughtfully, the young woman who completed the ceremony gives you a quick glance and a subtle smile. Her teeth gleam like polished ink. And just like that, it doesn't look strange anymore. It looks complete. Later, as you leave the estate and walk back through the misty streets, you catch your reflection in a shop window. There it is, your own black smile still holding on despite your attempts to accidentally rinse it out during breakfast, you smile wider. Yeah, you're getting used to it. Section 4. You're in the back room of a shop today, surrounded by jars, kettles, and an alarming amount of steam. The smell in the air is hard to describe. It's metallic, tangy, like someone accidentally spilled vinegar into a toolbox. Welcome to the behind-the-scenes world of ohaguro preparation. You didn't expect to get this far into the process, but a curious comment about how it can't be that complicated somehow turned into an invitation. No, a polite obligation to assist in making a fresh batch of tooth dye. So now here you are, wearing an apron, watching a woman named Osame stir a small iron pot over a low flame like she's crafting a forbidden potion. It's all about the balance, she says, not looking up. Too much vinegar, and it burns the gums. Too little, and the black fades by morning. You nod seriously, as if you understand. You do not understand. The dye being prepared is called kanemizu, literally metal water. It's made by soaking iron filings in tea or vinegar, sometimes adding rice wine or sake for a smoother consistency. The iron reacts with tannins, producing a black liquid that adheres to the enamel of the teeth like ink to paper. Osami hands you a small wooden paddle and says, "Stir clockwise, always clockwise." You ask why. She shrugs. "Because that's how my grandmother did it, and her grandmother before that, and besides," she leans closer, mock conspiratorially, "it clumps if you don't. So you stir. As the mixture simmers, she adds a few crushed gallnuts, fushi, the same ones used to make ink for calligraphy. The tannins from the gallnuts help bind the iron to the teeth. Technically, this part of the process is called fushiko, a base coat applied before the main dye. It's like primer, but for your molars. You learned something else today. Making kanemizu is an art form in itself. Some families guard their recipes for generations. Others pass down tiny modifications, longer simmering, a different ratio of vinegar, a splash of plum wine for smoothness, and presumably drinkability if someone's that desperate. Academic records mention regional variations. In some provinces, charcoal ash was added to deepen the color. In others, dried persimmons were included for scent. Historians still argue over which recipe was correct, although Osami snorts at that. "There is no correct," she says, "only what sticks to your teeth and doesn't make your eyes water." As she speaks, she picks up a bamboo strainer and begins to filter the thick, black syrup into a smaller bowl. She's not in a hurry. The way she moves, it's almost meditative, like she's preparing tea for a very picky spirit. You sit on a stool, notebook in hand, pretending to take notes while mostly just absorbing the atmosphere. It's hot in here. The steam curls up toward the wooden beams, and somewhere in the back, a cricket sings obliviously. You ask if the dye ever goes bad. "Oh yes," Osami says, nodding. "If left uncovered, it turns red. Then you have a whole different problem." The older woman beside you sees your expression and whispers, "She's not married yet. Young women dye their teeth when they come of age, or when they wed. Some families wait longer now." Interesting. You've stumbled into a transition moment. This household straddles both tradition and change, clinging to old customs, but not without flexibility. You wonder how many households are doing the same, quietly shifting the timelines of their daughters' rites of passage. Historical footnote. There are court records from the early 1500s that describe elite households debating the exact age when girls should begin dyeing their teeth. Some insisted on 14, others preferred 16. A few, more progressive perhaps, argued it should wait until marriage. Historians still don't agree on what was most proper, because, well, the answer changed depending on the decade, the clan, and whether or not someone had an influential aunt. And yes, there were aunties who absolutely made tooth dyeing a competitive sport. Back at the table, the mood is softening. More sake is poured. Someone tells a story about a monk who accidentally swallowed his dye brush during meditation and had to walk around with a permanently blue tongue. There's muffled laughter. A few black-toothed smiles flicker in the shadows, sleeves rising like polite little curtains. You join in, laughing gently, hand over your mouth. You're learning. Later, after the dishes are cleared and the guests begin bowing their goodbyes, your host's wife approaches you. She holds a small cup of tea, black as night, and offers it with both hands. "Your teeth will fade," she says kindly. "The good ones always do. But your manners, they can stay." You bow deeply, unsure how to reply. As you step outside into the cool night air, you realize just how much weight a smile can carry, and how silence, posture, and even a quiet sip of soup can be forms of communication just as rich as words. Your teeth feel strange now. Not because they're dyed, but because they mean something. You're not just a traveler anymore. You're a participant. And tomorrow you'll visit a public bathhouse to find out how ohaguro survives outside noble halls, in steam, gossip, and slightly uneven brushwork. Steam rolls through the wooden slats of the bathhouse like it has somewhere to be. You walk barefoot across the smooth floor, your yukata loosely tied, a tiny towel folded and perched on your head like everyone else. This isn't your first public bath in Kyoto, but it's your first time walking into one with black teeth. The women's bath is already buzzing with conversation. There's a kind of music to it, half-whispered laughter, wooden buckets being filled and emptied, the soft slap of water against skin. You pick a corner near the back, sit on a tiny stool, and start to rinse off. You try not to stare, but there it is again. Black teeth. Not just one or two women, but many. And not noble women either. These are market ladies, weavers, fisherwives, tea-house servers. Their hair is pinned up with plain wooden sticks. Their feet are calloused. And yet, each of them smiles the same shimmering black smile you've now come to associate with beauty, adulthood, and the very concept of having your life together. A woman 2 stools down catches your glance and grins. "First time dyeing?" she asks. You nod sheepishly, still figuring it out. She scoots closer, arms crossed over her knees. "Mine used to smear," she says. "Turns out you have to keep your mouth shut for a whole hour. That part was harder than the iron taste." You laugh, carefully, and she grins wider, showing off teeth that have clearly seen better, blacker days. Don't worry, reapplying gets easier, like painting a wall, just inside your face. Across the room, a group of middle-aged women are scrubbing each other's backs and debating, loudly, whether the vinegar-to-tea ratio should be 3-to-1 or 2-to-1. One woman swears by persimmon wine, another insists plain rice vinegar tastes the least like regret. You realize in this space, ohaguro isn't an elite custom. It's communal, it's generational. It's gossip-fueled self-care. In fact, some historical records suggest that bathhouses were unofficial classrooms for beauty rituals like ohaguro. Women shared recipes, tips, complaints. There are even 16th century travel journals where visiting monks note how even the daughters of carpenters blacken their teeth with pride. And in a delightful footnote, one foreign trader wrote that he mistook a group of laughing bathers for having all been struck with mouth disease. Still, not everyone in the bathhouse is a participant. You notice a younger woman, barely out of her teens, with a fresh face and bright white smile. She sits quietly, watching the older women, fingers curled tightly in her lap. Her mother, seated beside her, wears full black enamel and carries herself with gentle authority. Odd fact time. Some beauty manuals from the Edo period recommended painting small gold leaf flakes between the lips and teeth to catch candlelight at evening gatherings. Historians debate whether this was an actual vogue or a stylist's rumor. After all, who would willingly sand their mouth with gold? You gently pat your own face with a sponge, feeling the cool powder settle. You've never used ohaguro before, and the sensation of fine white dust on your skin is both novel and oddly soothing. Aya passes you a small mirror, and for a brief moment you don't recognize the reflection. Your face is pale, almost ghost-like, but your teeth look deeper, darker, more dramatic. A younger woman named Kyo interrupts your reverie. "Do you find it heavy?" she asks, indicating the powder. You shake your head. "It's like wearing morning mist," you say. She laughs quietly, a sound that briefly reveals her own black teeth before she covers her mouth. As the group finishes, Aya invites conversation. A woman with a scar on her hand, once concealed by ohaguro, asks about under-eye circles. Another describes how soot from candles darkened her hairline, prompting new hair care trends. Somewhere in the courtyard, a cat curls in a sunlit patch. You raise your hand. Why did this combination of white and black become so widespread? Was it purely aesthetic? Aya smiles thoughtfully. Beauty in this land is often symbolic. White speaks of purity and rank, black of discretion and devotion. Together they tell a story. I am refined, I am committed. She hesitates, then adds, "Some say it harkens back to the yin and yang of Chinese philosophy." But historians still debate whether that influence was direct or filtered through many layers of Japanese practice. You sip from a cup of lightly sweetened tea, reflecting. The contrast between your pale face and your black teeth feels like a coded language, one you're only just learning to read. You realize that beauty, here, is not an accident, but a conversation between colors, materials, and social signals. The session ends with Aya offering each of you a small packet of fushiko powder and instructions on how to store it. You tuck yours into your kimono sash, grateful for the gift and for the company. You step back into the courtyard where lantern light and blossom petals mingle on a stone path. As you make your way home, you pass by a merchant carrying bales of cotton for the night's blankets, and another selling candied plums. Kyoto seems to shimmer around you, every detail heightened by your new makeup and your black smile. You think about how, in a world without electric light or mass media, beauty was this tactile, communal ritual, a way of marking seasons, statuses, and spirits. And you wonder, in the centuries to come, what will people in other lands say about your own beauty rituals? Your teeth tingle slightly. You've yet to rinse the dye. But tonight, as you return to your room and wash the day's powder from your face, you'll catch one more glimpse in the polished mirror. And you'll see someone who belongs, not to your own time, but to this realm of contrast and ceremony. Tomorrow, you'll hear gossip about a rival dye shop in Osaka, where women challenge each other to keep the blackest teeth. And yes, you'll likely join in. Section 8. You slip out of your room early. The the chill of dawn nipping at your cheeks as you make your way through quiet streets toward the public bath you heard had a surprising custom. Men sometimes practiced ohaguro, too. You're half convinced you'll be finding a bunch of samurai with blackened grins, but the thought makes your heart race with intrigue. Pushing open the wooden door, you're greeted by the familiar hiss of steam and the rhythmic clank of buckets. The bathhouse is empty except for a single attendant in plain cotton, presumably the bathhouse keeper, who nods at you before disappearing behind a beaded curtain. You hesitate, brush the hair from your face, and step inside. The men's side is subdued in comparison to the women's. No clusters of gossiping bathers, no laughter echoed off wooden beams, just a few low benches, stone floors wet with footprints, and a modest pool steaming in muted light. You settle on a stool, unpack your small kit, and begin your wash routine, still aware of the faint metallic aftertaste in your mouth from yesterday's dye. Then you hear footsteps. A man enters, broad-shouldered, hair tied in a neat top knot, wearing only a waistcloth. He carries a small lacquered box, the handle worn smooth by use. He sits 2 stools down, opens the box, and pulls out a tiny brush and a bowl of dark liquid. Kanemizu, the same metal water you've learned to mix and admire. You almost spill your soap. He glances at you, raises an eyebrow, and says in a quiet voice, "First time seeing a man dye his teeth." You swallow, keep your tone light. "I thought this was mostly for women." He chuckles, low, amused. "So did I until my master ordered it. I serve as an onmyaji, a spiritual consultant for the clan. Black teeth keep the evil spirits out of your mouth." Mainstream knowledge point. In certain periods of medieval Japan, particularly among courtiers and onmyoji, yin-yang diviners, men did occasionally adopt ohaguro. It signified authority, spiritual purity, or simply adherence to a household's custom. You watch him carefully as he dips his brush and strokes the liquid across his lower teeth, steady hand moving with rehearsed precision. His teeth darken in a smooth line, as if painted by a master calligrapher. "I was reluctant at first," he admits, "but it grows on you, literally." He taps his teeth gently. "My master claims it's like armor, for your teeth and your spirit." You nod, fascinated. The idea of ohaguro as spiritual armor feels entirely plausible in this world of ritual and symbolism. But you can't help asking, does it look odd on a man? He laughs again, a warm rumble. Perhaps to a traveler from another time, but here it commands respect. In council chambers, my black smile tells all who listen. I am bound by tradition. I stand between you and the unseen. He leans back, stretches, and the lantern light skims over his darkened grin like a blade's edge. You feel the power of that smile, a silent proclamation of role and status. Curious tidbit. Some temple scrolls from the Muromachi period reference warriors dyeing their teeth before battle. The theory was that a blackened mouth would ward off fear, both in themselves and in their enemies, who would see the warrior's grim visage and hesitate. Historians still debate whether these accounts reflect widespread practice or isolated anecdotes. Some argue the stories grew in the telling, a kind of battle myth to amplify a lord's ferocity. The attendant returns, carrying buckets of warm water. You pause as he passes because you notice his own teeth, a soft grayish-black stain near the gum line. He glances at you and shrugs. "Hard water reacts with the dye," he says. "Mine's been fading, but it keeps my gums healthy." You realize the practical side behind ritual. Iron's natural antiseptic properties, combined with tannins, created a rudimentary dental treatment, reducing decay and strengthening enamel, a kind of preventive medicine hidden in plain sight. As you soak in the communal tub, you reflect on how gender norms shift across cultures. Here, men and women both blacken teeth, though for slightly different reasons. Women mark marriage and beauty. Men mark authority and protection. Both uses converge on the idea that your teeth convey meaning. Another man joins the bath, an older samurai with weathered skin and a watchful gaze. He nods at the onmiyagi and offers a subtle bow of his head. You catch the older samurai's teeth in profile, just slightly darkened, a hint of tradition. He's not as dramatic as the diviner, but the gesture is clear. Tradition isn't just for show, he says, more to himself than to you. It's what binds us to our ancestors. A soldier without ohaguro is like a blade without a haft. You listen as they discuss ratios of vinegar to tea, the merits of adding sake for sheen, the best times of day to reapply. It's the same communal exchange you saw in the women's bath, recipes and gossip woven together in steam. A young apprentice lad overhears and pipes up, "My father says you should only reapply on full moon nights, strongest protection when the moon is bright." The diviner laughs. "Moonlight recipe. That I have to test." He winks at you. "Keep that in your travel notes." You grin, careful to keep your lips pressed together. You think about how ohaguro serves multiple masters: aesthetic, ritual, health, spiritual. It's not just a one-dimensional trend, it's a living, breathing practice that adapts to each wearer's needs. As the bath clears and men start to drift out, you stand, wrap yourself in your yukata, and approach the onmiyagi. "Thank you for letting me observe," you say. He nods, eyes thoughtful. "Respect the practice, and it will respect you." He offers you a small sachet of gall nuts. "For your next dye." You accept it with a bow, heart warmed by the camaraderie and the quiet power of that black smile. Walking back through Kyoto's dawn-lit streets, you run your tongue over your blackened teeth, thinking of armor, ancestral bonds, and the curious unity between men and women in this shared custom. You realize that ohaguro is more than a curiosity. It's a lens on a culture's soul, reflecting ideals of discipline, community, and the delicate balance between appearance and meaning. As you step back into the alley, a gentle rain begins falling again, softening the city into quiet reflections of gray. You stop by a market stall selling plum sweets. The vendor smiles widely, teeth freshly blackened. You smile back, carefully, aware that your own teeth are now fading slightly. He hands you a sample and winks. "Nothing wrong with white teeth either, friend. Just keep smiling." You nod warmly. Perhaps tradition and innovation can coexist, after all. Walking home through the gentle drizzle, you ponder how change creeps slowly into society, like rain soaking into earth. Inevitable, gentle, yet unstoppable. Tomorrow you'll hear gossip about the imperial court, where tooth dyeing has evolved into a competitive art, and wonder how much longer black teeth will dominate this culture's view of beauty. But for tonight, you feel at peace, comfortable in your knowledge that sometimes the greatest beauty lies in the freedom to choose, even if that choice involves blackened teeth. Section 10. Today you find yourself quietly walking along the outer corridors of the imperial palace, carefully staying to one side as courtiers pass in silent, silk-swathed elegance. The air here is thick with whispered intrigue and incense, a fragrance so subtle it seems to emanate from the walls themselves. A soft spring rain taps gently on the polished wooden roofs, adding a rhythm to your quiet exploration. You've come to the palace today because you've heard intriguing gossip. In the highest circles of the imperial court, black teeth aren't simply customary. They become fiercely competitive. Courtiers don't just dye their teeth. They compete to see whose are darkest, glossiest, and most impeccably maintained. You're here to witness the subtle rivalry firsthand, the quiet, relentless pursuit of perfection hidden behind smiles. In a small courtyard shielded by blossoming cherry trees, several elegantly dressed women have gathered beneath delicate silk umbrellas. Each holds a lacquered hand mirror, examining their reflections carefully as palace attendants apply a fresh coat of kanimisu with practiced precision. You approach slowly, feigning casual interest, and find a spot near the edge to discreetly observe. One courtier, older and dignified, smiles faintly as her attendant carefully applies a layer of dye. "Make it darker," she whispers firmly. "Today I must appear flawless." A younger woman sitting nearby overhears, glancing over with carefully veiled rivalry. She quietly urges her attendant, "Be sure mine shines brighter." You catch your breath slightly. Who knew tooth dye could spark such quiet drama? A passing noblewoman pauses beside you, sensing your fascination. She whispers knowingly, "It's always like this." Everyone says it's tradition, but secretly they all want the blackest smile. She gives you a conspiratorial wink. "Watch closely, it's better than theater." Historical fact: court documents from the Edo period indeed describe palace ladies holding contests to achieve the darkest, shiniest teeth. The glossiness was prized almost as much as the color itself. Some accounts describe women applying multiple layers of dye, polishing their teeth with rice bran afterward to achieve a lacquer-like finish. Historians debate how widespread or serious this competition was. Was it purely vanity, or were deeper social rivalries expressed through this cosmetic battle? You notice two women nearby quietly exchanging furtive glances. One, elegantly dressed in a deep purple kimono, smiles slyly at the other. "I heard Lady Asami's dye faded before evening tea yesterday. How embarrassing," she murmurs behind a silk fan. Her companion giggles delicately, mouth carefully covered. Her attendant blamed poor quality iron, but we know the truth. She forgot her reapplication. You feel yourself smiling at the innocent absurdity of it all, imagining whispered rumors circulating palace halls like gentle ripples on a pond. Suddenly, you're aware of a soft, firm presence at your elbow. A matronly attendant gently says, "You've been invited to observe Lady Haruko's daily ritual." Surprised and intrigued, you follow through winding hallways to a small, quiet room overlooking an inner garden. Lady Haruko sits poised and composed at a low table, an intricate box of ohaguro tools laid carefully before her. Without hesitation, she takes up a tiny brush, dipping it meticulously into the ink-black dye. She expertly paints each tooth in smooth, precise strokes, her reflection staring back at her from a polished mirror with unwavering focus. You quietly admire her artistry, every stroke of the brush precise, each tooth painted evenly with deliberate care. This isn't simply vanity, it's craftsmanship, pride, a delicate act of self-expression. When she finishes, she sets down the brush and breathes out, satisfied. Seeing your fascination, she smiles warmly, teeth impeccably black. Beauty here isn't just appearance, it's discipline. The darkest teeth speak of patience and dedication. "Do you find it tedious?" you gently ask. She laughs softly, covering her mouth. "Tedious? Perhaps. but each stroke connects me to generations before me. The competition in court may seem trivial, but it keeps tradition alive. It drives us to perfection. You consider her words thoughtfully. Even amid competition, rivalry, and occasional gossip, there's something deeply respectful in this pursuit of perfection. Tradition lives not because it's easy, but because it demands effort, focus, and collective participation. Odd detail. Some historical accounts suggest palace ladies once experimented with adding honey or syrup into their dye mixture to improve taste and texture. Results were predictably sticky and reportedly disastrous. Courtiers spent entire afternoons desperately removing sugary residue from their teeth, an amusing anecdote that historians still debate for accuracy, but you secretly hope it's true. Returning to the outer courtyard, you watch quietly as courtiers gather beneath the spring drizzle. Their black smiles shine darkly, each reflecting quiet pride and subtle rivalry. A passing attendant whispers humorously, "Today's dye is excellent. Perhaps tomorrow it'll rain vinegar and save us some effort." You chuckle softly, noting how even a tradition as solemn as ohaguro can inspire gentle humor. Perhaps it's this blend of earnestness and playfulness that keeps such customs alive, generation after generation. As the gentle rain continues, you begin walking slowly back through palace gates, carrying new insight into the strange beauty of blackened teeth. Behind every polished black smile lies dedication, competition, vanity, yes, but also culture, continuity, and quiet respect for tradition. Tomorrow you'll leave Kyoto's courtly intrigues behind to see how ohaguro survives among merchants and ordinary townsfolk, discovering a very different, less polished, yet equally fascinating side of Blacktooth culture. But tonight, as you walk softly through wet streets and breathe in Kyoto's spring air, you find yourself smiling, gently, respectfully, and thoughtfully, feeling more connected than ever to this elegant, mysterious world. Section 11. Early morning finds you strolling through Kyoto's merchant district. Unlike the silent elegance of the imperial court, here life bursts forth in vibrant noise, vendors calling out prices, carpenters hammering rhythmically, carts rumbling down stone-paved streets. The air is thick with aromas of roasting chestnuts, fresh timber, and the distant scent of river water. It's bustling, messy, alive, and exactly where you want to be today. You've come to discover how ordinary people, the shopkeepers, street vendors, and craftswomen of Kyoto, engage with the practice of ohaguro. Far from courtly ritual and aristocratic competition, you're curious how this tradition lives among people whose daily concerns are more practical than aesthetic. Pausing at a small storefront, you spot a smiling elderly woman selling bamboo baskets. Her teeth, though clearly dyed black, have faded unevenly, leaving patches of grayish-brown. She notices your glance and laughs, a warm, welcoming sound. "You noticed my teeth?" she asks good-naturedly. "The dye wears off quickly when you work outdoors. You have to keep reapplying, but who has time?" She gestures toward a pile of unfinished baskets. "My hands are busy enough," she adds cheerfully, revealing calloused palms. You smile and nod, understanding. Unlike the careful perfection of palace ladies, the practical world of the working class allows room for imperfection, for faded dyes and haphazard applications. Here, black teeth aren't so much about aesthetics. They're part of identity, status, and practicality combined. Further down the street, you enter a bustling tea house. Customers crowd low wooden benches, sipping steaming tea from chipped cups and eating simple snacks. The tea house owner, a jovial woman named Hana, moves efficiently between tables, greeting regulars warmly, her faded black teeth flashing with every cheerful word. Hana spots you and sits briefly, wiping her forehead. Black teeth, eh? She chuckles, noticing your gaze. It's mostly habit at this point. I don't even remember why I started, honestly. But it feels right, like putting on shoes before leaving home. A young server, barely 20, pauses to join your conversation. Her teeth, in contrast, are bright white. Hana nudges her playfully. This one refuses to dye her teeth. She says it tastes terrible and stains the dishes when she washes them. The girl shrugs sheepishly. I prefer white teeth. Simpler, cleaner. Hana laughs heartily, squeezing the girl's arm. She thinks she's modern. You sense no judgment, just playful teasing and genuine acceptance. Here, tradition and change mingle easily, comfortably. Historical note. During the Edo period, as urban commerce expanded, merchant classes developed their own relationship to beauty traditions. Tooth blackening among commoners wasn't uniform, often applied less frequently and less meticulously, but remained a widespread symbol of respectability, particularly for married women. Historians debate whether declining usage among younger urban women signaled genuine resistance or simply practical adaptation to busy lives. You wander further, stopping by an apothecary shop selling medicinal herbs and ohaguro supplies. Behind the counter, a middle-aged man named Genzo carefully weighs iron filings onto delicate scales. Do many people still buy dye ingredients? You ask casually. Genzo nods earnestly. Certainly, but fewer younger customers these days. My regulars are older women and a few traditional men, mostly monks and scholars who dye as spiritual discipline. He leans forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, I recently had a customer ask if I could mix strawberry syrup into the dye. She claimed it might improve the flavor. You laugh softly, imagining the disaster. Genzo winks. Needless to say, it didn't sell well. Odd anecdote. Indeed, some historical accounts from the late Edo period describe experimental tooth dye mixtures with sweet additives, fruit syrups, or honey, which inevitably attracted insects and caused embarrassment. Historians argue whether these stories reflected actual trends or were humorous cautionary tales, but it's easy to imagine practical townsfolk quickly dismissing such sticky innovations. Leaving the apothecary, you cross towards the riverbank, where washerwomen scrub clothes vigorously, laughing and chatting as they work. Their dyed teeth range from pitch black to faded gray, a palette of casual imperfection reflecting lives too busy for constant upkeep. The women wave cheerfully, unfazed by your curious glances, absorbed in their cheerful chatter. An elderly washerwoman beckons you closer, smiling warmly. Want advice? Use less vinegar, less sour, lasts longer, and never apply dye during a thunderstorm. It fades faster. She shrugs. I have no idea why, but my grandmother swore by it. You thank her, marveling at how deeply custom blends with superstition. You realize that here, ohaguro isn't strict tradition or rigid beauty. It's casual wisdom, practical advice passed down generations. It's a small act connecting mothers and daughters, neighbors and friends, fading gracefully alongside busy lives. As afternoon stretches on, you pause near a rice merchant's stall. Two elderly men sit outside sipping tea and comparing their teeth humorously. Mine's blacker today, one boasts. His companion laughs, only because you painted extra coats to impress the new widow across the street. They laugh uproariously, their competition joyful, playful, far removed from the palace's seriousness. Here, tooth dye is humorous, friendly rivalry rather than status competition. You step away, smiling softly to yourself, feeling a deep warmth toward these everyday rituals. In the bustling marketplace, among vendors, workers, and common people, you found ohaguro as a living practice, adaptable, humorous, occasionally sloppy, but always genuine. Heading home through evening's golden light, you wonder how long this tradition will endure among Kyoto's people. Tomorrow, you'll hear how foreign traders arriving in Japan reacted to ohaguro, offering a perspective entirely different and distinctly outside. Tonight, however, you feel content knowing that beauty can survive, even flourish, in imperfection, in daily lives, and gentle laughter. Section 12. Today you make your way toward the bustling port city of Nagasaki, where foreign ships arrive with traders from Europe and beyond. The cobbled streets echo with foreign languages, Portuguese, Dutch, Spanish, all mingling with Japanese, creating an eclectic soundtrack. You've come to discover how outsiders viewed the peculiar custom of blackened teeth, and what happened when Eastern tradition met Western curiosity. Arriving at the bustling harbor, you watch massive sailing ships anchored offshore, their tall masts swaying gently against a backdrop of blue skies and rolling waves. Merchants bustle about, unloading crates filled with textiles, spices, and strange mechanical devices. Near the docks, a small group of Portuguese traders linger, animatedly discussing something with local officials. You approach discreetly, curious. One Portuguese trader, young, wide-eyed, clearly new to Japan, looks bewildered as he speaks earnestly in broken Japanese. "Why teeth black?" he asks haltingly, pointing awkwardly toward his mouth. The Japanese merchant laughs good-naturedly, revealing his own impeccable black teeth. "Good luck," the merchant replies warmly, patting his mouth proudly. "Protect from evil, good for marriage." The trader frowns, puzzled. "But not beautiful," he insists earnestly. "White teeth good, clean." A crowd gathers, curious locals and amused traders, listening with interest. Another foreign merchant, older, more experienced, steps forward, addressing the group in fluent Japanese. "In our land, teeth remain naturally white," he explains diplomatically, "but we respect the customs of Japan." A woman selling fresh fruit nearby chuckles softly. They find black teeth strange, yet they wear wigs that look like sheep's wool. Everyone's strange to someone. Laughter ripples gently through the crowd, tension easing as locals nod in amused agreement. The Portuguese traders smile sheepishly, acknowledging the irony. You've stumbled onto a moment of cultural exchange, each side curious, respectful, and slightly baffled. Historical context. When European traders first arrived in Japan during the 16th century, they documented their initial shock at the practice of blackened teeth. Portuguese missionaries, notably Francis Xavier, recorded their confusion, describing it as bizarre yet fascinating. Historians debate whether these reactions influenced later Japanese perceptions of ohaguro, as interactions with Westerners gradually introduced alternative beauty standards. You stroll through Nagasaki's market, noting foreign and Japanese merchants exchanging goods, languages, and amused glances. A Dutch sailor, ruddy-faced and jovial, purchases a small lacquered mirror. He holds it up, baring his white teeth playfully. "Maybe I dye teeth," he jokes loudly in rough Japanese. "Good for business." The merchant selling the mirror laughs heartily. "Careful," he replies with mock seriousness. "Your customers might run away." Nearby, an older Jesuit priest speaks gently to local children gathered around him. They ask him endless questions about his homeland, his clothes, and, yes, his bright white teeth. "Why not black?" one child boldly asks. The priest smiles warmly, placing a comforting hand on the child's shoulder. "In my country, white teeth symbolize purity, but here black teeth symbolize virtue and maturity. Both colors can be beautiful." The children nod thoughtfully, clearly fascinated. One girl whispers to her friend, "Maybe I'll keep my teeth white. It looks easier." The priest overhears, chuckling softly. "But remember, easy isn't always better." You reflect quietly on his words, realizing that beauty standards are often arbitrary, yet deeply meaningful. Each culture cherishes its own rituals, no matter how strange they seem to outsiders. European traders, fascinated and perplexed, occasionally attempted to experiment with tooth dyeing themselves. Historical records mention Dutch sailors jokingly applying soot and ink to their teeth, mimicking the Japanese custom, usually resulting in comedic failure and messy cleanups afterward. Scholars debate whether these playful attempts genuinely showed interest or subtly mocked Japanese traditions, but perhaps they simply represented human curiosity. By evening, you find yourself in a modest tavern frequented by both Japanese and foreign merchants. Conversations flow easily across tables, some guests speaking Dutch, others Portuguese or Japanese. Over rice wine and grilled fish, a friendly Dutch merchant named Willem strikes up conversation with you. He nods toward a local woman serving drinks, her teeth impeccably blackened. "I've traveled far," he says thoughtfully, sipping sake. "Seen strange things in every port, but black teeth, this took getting used to." He chuckles warmly. "Yet, after months here, now white teeth look strange to me." You smile knowingly, understanding exactly what he means. Another merchant nearby joins in, speaking gently. "When I first saw black teeth, I thought Japan was strange. Now it reminds me how we're all strange somewhere else. That's travel's greatest lesson, no?" The tavern quiets slightly as guests reflect on his words, nodding thoughtfully. Willem raises his cup cheerfully. "To black teeth and open minds," he declares. Glasses clink around the table as laughter and conversation resume warmly. You join in, smiling, careful, of course, to show your own carefully dyed teeth only slightly. Outside, the moon rises gently over Nagasaki Harbor, casting soft silver light across anchored ships and rippling waves. You stand quietly at the docks, breathing the salty air, reflecting deeply. Today's encounters have shown you how cultural exchange is gentle yet powerful, confusion melting into understanding, skepticism becoming respect. Black teeth may bewilder newcomers, but tradition and meaning transcend superficial strangeness. Tomorrow you'll hear whispers that the Tokugawa shogunate intends to officially encourage ohaguro as a symbol of Japanese identity against growing foreign influence, another twist in the complex history of this practice. Tonight, however, as you walk slowly toward your inn beneath moonlit skies, you feel profoundly grateful to witness the beauty of human curiosity, the warmth of shared laughter, and the subtle power of open-mindedness. Section 13. This morning you find yourself on a quiet road heading back toward Edo, modern-day Tokyo, where rumors have spread that the Tokugawa shogunate is becoming increasingly invested in protecting traditional Japanese customs, including ohaguro, against foreign influences. You're curious to see how the practice is shifting, perhaps even hardening, under official endorsement. The path winds gently through misty forests, past temples tucked quietly between stands of bamboo and cedar. As you near Edo, you begin noticing posters and proclamations pinned to village gates and temple walls. Official messages from local shogunate representatives urging people to honor and uphold traditional customs. Among them, ohaguro is explicitly mentioned as an emblem of cultural pride and loyalty. Arriving in Edo, you step onto streets humming with daily activity. Craftsmen hammering metal, merchants calling out their wares, children laughing as they chase wooden tops. Yet beneath the cheerful bustle lies subtle tension. Whispers among shopkeepers, guarded conversations in tea stalls. You pause near a popular tea shop, overhearing two elderly women quietly debating. Did you hear? Officials say women who abandon black teeth lack respect for tradition, murmurs one softly. Her companion shakes her head, teeth freshly dyed dark. It's become political, she sighs. I dye my teeth because my grandmother did, not because some official demands it. Nearby, a younger woman, clearly reluctant, mutters softly, My husband insists I dye them to show loyalty. But I prefer white teeth. They seem healthier. You're witnessing a subtle shift from beauty tradition to political statement. The shogunate, keenly aware of growing foreign presence in Japan, has begun leveraging ohaguro as a symbol of Japanese cultural identity and resistance to foreign influence. Historical context. Under the Tokugawa shogunate, especially during periods of foreign contact and isolationist policies, practices like ohaguro were promoted as signs of cultural purity. Official decrees sometimes encouraged or pressured citizens to adhere strictly to traditions, equating personal choices with political loyalty. Historians still debate the exact extent of governmental pressure and its effectiveness. But the link between beauty rituals and political symbolism was undeniably strengthened during this time. You continue through Edo, observing more subtle signs of the shogunate's cultural campaign. Merchants proudly display signs declaring authentic Japanese goods beside items associated with tradition, including black tooth dye. Temple priests deliver sermons urging devotion not just spiritually, but culturally, framing traditional customs like ohaguro as spiritual duties. At a busy intersection, you notice an official poster prominently displayed. Boldly printed, it reads, True Japanese customs bind our society. Preserve your honor. Dye your teeth black. Beneath it, a young street performer quietly tells a satirical tale to a small crowd, subtly mocking the idea of government-prescribed beauty. Next, they'll order us to shave our eyebrows and wear socks on our hands, he jokes gently, eliciting nervous laughter. Humor masks tension, reflecting quiet resistance simmering beneath polite compliance. Odd historical anecdote. Some Edo period records note satirical poems and kabuki plays subtly criticizing enforced beauty standards, portraying officials who went too far as foolish characters obsessed with trivial rules. Scholars debate whether these performances genuinely challenged authority or simply offered harmless comedic release for popular frustration. Intrigued, you wander to a local theater hosting a kabuki performance today. The play tells of a bumbling official obsessed with teeth blackness, hilariously punishing villagers whose smiles aren't black enough. The audience roars with laughter, relieved, cathartic laughter. Satire, you realize, is a gentle but powerful way society addresses pressure, turning tension into comedy. After the play, you strike up conversation with an older woman seated nearby. Her black teeth glisten gently, faded with age. I dye them because I choose to, she explains quietly, glancing at a nearby official watching from afar. but no official can decide the meaning behind my smile. Nearby, a young samurai purchasing tooth powder laughs openly. My father insists black teeth represent discipline, but honestly, they taste terrible. He smiles mischievously. I choose freshness. You pause thoughtfully, realizing how quickly tradition fades when no longer meaningful to younger generations. Customs live not merely through official decree, but through genuine personal embrace. Without heartfelt resonance, even ancient rituals quietly fade away. Later, you visit a popular Edo bookstore, shelves lined with illustrated books detailing new Western ideas, clothing styles, and beauty standards. A prominent pamphlet catches your eye. Modern Teeth, Why White Smiles Represent Health and Progress. The shopkeeper sees your curiosity and nods enthusiastically. These days, everyone wants information on Western habits, fashion, medicine, hygiene. Teeth whitening is especially popular. He leans forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, I stopped dyeing mine months ago. Feels great. You laugh gently, understanding how deeply curiosity about foreign ideas reshapes traditions. Openness to new knowledge quietly erodes strict adherence to old customs, leaving only rituals genuinely cherished. At sunset, you visit a local tea house known for hosting debates and discussions. Tonight's topic, unsurprisingly, addresses changing beauty standards. Scholars, merchants, and fashionable youths gather, animatedly discussing whether black teeth still hold value. A scholarly woman speaks first. Traditions survive because they carry meaning. Once meaning fades, traditions must evolve or disappear. She smiles openly, teeth white and natural. White teeth represent openness, new ideas, personal freedom. We must accept change. A merchant disagrees politely, black teeth glossy. Yet traditions anchor us to ancestors. Without traditions, we drift aimlessly. The woman nods gently, replying warmly. I don't suggest abandoning tradition, only allowing flexibility. Those who cherish black teeth should continue freely, but those embracing change must also be respected. Soft murmurs of agreement ripple through the audience. You listen quietly, reflecting deeply. True beauty lies precisely in this freedom, freedom to choose, adapt, evolve. Traditions must resonate personally or risk becoming mere obligations. Curious anecdote. Historical records indicate that during the Meiji Restoration, government officials publicly discouraged blackened teeth as backward, associating them with outdated customs. Ironically, this top-down discouragement mirrored previous shogunate efforts to enforce the tradition, demonstrating again how official policies struggle against genuine personal preference. Late evening finds you strolling Edo's quiet streets, reflecting deeply on today's observations. You realize clearly the quiet erosion of blackened teeth symbolizes something greater. Japan's gentle transition from rigid tradition toward openness, individual choice, and acceptance of diverse beauty standards. Returning to your lodgings, you notice fewer faces sporting black smiles, replaced gradually by confident white grins. The shift feels natural, gentle, inevitable, tradition respectfully fading when no longer meaningful, replaced by personal choices freely made. Tomorrow you'll visit museums housing historical records of ohaguro, recognizing how customs survive in memories, literature, and quiet nostalgia, even as living traditions gently fade away. Tonight, however, you rest deeply, comforted by witnessing firsthand how beauty continually evolves, quietly, respectfully, through personal choice rather than enforced obligation. Section 15. The museum is quiet this morning. You walk through wide halls lined with soft tatami mats, where the sound of your footsteps seems to vanish into the hush of contemplation. This is Edo's small but meticulously curated museum of domestic arts and traditions, home to one of the city's last surviving collections of ohaguro tools, portraits, and personal diaries. You enter a gallery titled The Silent Smile, A History of Blackened Teeth, and immediately, time seems to slow. The lighting is gentle, diffused through rice paper panels, and display cases glow faintly, each holding carefully preserved artifacts of a fading world. You stop before a lacquered box, its compartments neatly labeled in brushwork: fushiko powder, kanimizu bowl, application brushes, lip guards, and even a folded cloth once used to protect kimono during the staining process. You imagine the woman who once opened this box every morning, kneeling before a mirror, performing a ritual that was equal parts beauty routine, social signal, and personal ceremony. Beside it sits a framed letter, its ink slightly faded with age. It reads, in delicate script, "When I apply the black, I remember my mother's hands. She used to hum softly as she brushed each tooth. She said, 'This is the color of grace.' I never questioned it. I never needed to." You feel a quiet ache in your chest. There's something deeply intimate about these small gestures, the daily act of preparing oneself, of aligning one's face with a set of inherited values. Further along, a scroll painting catches your eye. It's a portrait of a court lady from the late Heian period, sitting beneath cherry blossoms. Her hair is long, her robes flowing, and her smile unmistakably dark. What strikes you, though, is how serene she looks, not merely poised, but at ease with herself, her place, her tradition. Next to the portrait, a museum placard explains, "Though now largely abandoned, ohaguro represented dignity, loyalty, and the transition into adulthood for generations of Japanese women. Its gradual disappearance was neither sudden nor violent, but a quiet drift, like a lantern floating downstream." Historical reflection. By the early 20th century, ohaguro had all but vanished from daily life in Japan. Government policies discouraged it. Western beauty ideals increasingly dominated magazines, schools, and city streets. But in rural areas, some women continued dying well into the 1920s, quietly carrying the tradition a little further before laying it gently to rest. You sit on a cushion in a small reading alcove, flipping through a facsimile of a young woman's diary from 1885. One entry reads, "I tried to keep my teeth black, even as friends stopped. They say it is old-fashioned. Perhaps it is. But when I look in the mirror and see that shine, I see mother. I see grandmother. I see the women before me. That matters." It hits you again. Ohaguro was never just cosmetic. It was a conversation with the past, a way of saying, "I belong here," even as the world shifted. You wander into the final gallery, where a short film plays on repeat. It features elderly women in their 90s, interviewed in the 1970s, the last generation to remember ohaguro not as history, but as memory. One chuckles softly on camera, saying, "We thought we looked so elegant, like little lacquer boxes, and maybe we did." Another woman adds, "We didn't do it for men. We did it for ourselves. It made us feel ready, grown, beautiful in our way." You sit for a long while after the film ends, letting those voices echo gently in your mind. In a world always chasing the next trend, there's something touching, almost revolutionary, about rituals that exist simply because they once mattered. As you leave the museum, you notice a mirror placed at the exit, a small sign beside it. "Smile," and remember the ones who came before you. You do, and for a moment in the reflection, you imagine your teeth still blackened, gleaming softly under lantern light. You understand now, ohaguro was never meant to last forever. It was meant to be passed on, then released, gracefully, gently, with gratitude. And it was. Final reflection. As the journey comes to a close, your mind slows. Like a candle burning lower, the flame still steady, but softer. You see in your mind the quiet smiles of so many women, and a few men too, who dipped their brushes, closed their lips, and honored a moment in history with each careful stroke. Perhaps the black smile has faded, but its story lives. You are part of it now. So wherever you are, close your eyes. Let the night hold you like the hush of a temple garden. You're safe here. You're home.